Hey.
Hi, Ocean.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Multitasking, making
Okay.
dinner and just getting the place straightened up, and wanted to give you some hear what you had to say and what the discussion is, because
Yeah.
I'm in dating mode right now.
Oh,
So,
you and okay, okay, yeah.
well, no, and you know what? It took me about a year to get there because we've had these conversations. So, kind of a rebirth right now, I think.
Okay, good, good. Rebirth is good. Rebirth is good. So yeah, we're gonna wait a couple of minutes, and I definitely will. It's about us sharing the wisdom that we have as it relates to the so-called myth that we're not complete unless we are in a relationship. So
Well,
that's
I'm not in any relationship.
huh?
It's to have companionship.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that there's a difference. And
Okay, well, you can talk about that then.
yeah,
Hello. That's a good thing. I would like for you to talk about that. That's good. Companionship and relationship. But you know, the little fairy tale dream that little girls have, and I'm not sure so much about what the guys have when they're young, because I'm speaking from a woman's perspective or a female's perspective coming up, the whole thing about having to get married, and you get married by a certain age. I know that in my generation, and we are actually having a conversation right now, somewhere on a rainbow, this 22nd of March. This is our monthly conversation. But anyway, as I was saying, as a little girl, the expectation was to get married, have children. Anything else but that. That was the fantasy. Plan the wedding, make sure that you have the white picket fence and the whole shebang. And if you're not in a relationship by the time you're a certain age, like in a real definite relationship to get married, then you're not complete. Long time ago, and I'm thinking maybe my mother's generation, which is she is the silent generation. I'm a baby boomer. But my mother's generation, if they weren't married at a certain time, the women were called old maids or
yeah.
spinsters or things like that. So even though it's not directly said to people that they are incomplete if they're not in a relationship. And as you put it, companionship. But in this particular case, we're talking about relationship, tying the knot type of thing, like being like that solid in a relationship, then they're not complete. And oftentimes women, and this has to do with a lot of cultures too. Oftentimes,
Oh, I'm Latin. You're old if you're like 25.
exactly, yeah, yeah, and you subconsciously the seed is planted that you're not complete. You're not. Something is wrong with you. You have issues. So yeah, so that's what this conversation is all about, because it's a big myth. And the whole thing about the somewhere in a rainbow conversation is to dispel those myths and to try to behead those stigmas and get rid of those things. So what do you feel about that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I have experience with that because my first marriage, I
Uh-huh.
had a lot of fun with the man. We dated for some time. It was like about 3 years, 3.5 years before we got engaged.
Uh-huh.
I knew I should not have married him.
Okay.
2 weeks before, I told my dad, please don't let me do this. My friend Carol, that I bought my salon from,
Mhm.
showed up to where I was getting ready and said, I've got the car running, Christina, let's go.
Mhm.
And basically, for him, I was taking my relationship serious, but
Uh-huh.
I knew, and I think he was in love with the idea of my family, and we did all these things. And his family, although they were the perception of well-to-do, there was a lot of instability, whereas my family, there was a lot of stability as far as income and friends and things like that. And he liked that. And then I remember leaving for the honeymoon the morning after the big ceremony and the fairy tale wedding, which pretty much I paid for and my parents paid for.
Mhm.
And he looked down, and this struck me, and I knew I would be divorced within a year. This was the day I left for my honeymoon. He looked down
Wow.
at his ring And he said, I think being married will suit me just fine.
Really?
And the choice of words, and you know me in words, and exactly 1 year, I divorced him, started dating immediately because I was missing, I felt like I had taken a lot on my shoulders. He took advantage financially, and I'm too smart for that. I never changed my name. I never put him on a bank account. I saved myself. And I got in a relationship with someone else for about a year on and off, had fun. He wasn't for me. He was like a boy toy. And then I met this real nice guy that was the complete opposite of the first one. And the problem with him is he was too needy and he worked out of town during the week, which was perfect for me because I had my business. And then I would on the weekend come home and let's go do things and have fun. And because I'm not a needy person. I don't really I like to have my independence. Right. I can have a relationship, but also be autonomous. And to be honest, I really, right now is a time where I feel like I can do that. I've never really had anybody let me do that.
Oh, that's a big difference too. That's a major difference. So how do you feel about that? How do you juggle that? I mean, because that
respected my strongness. We are both strong women, and I don't put up with anything.
Yeah.
And everything does not have to be so serious. Some things are for somebody else to know. Like I have my high school boyfriend, through the difficult times I've had as of late, has, we've always kept in contact. We dated this past summer. I told you about that. And then it stopped. And then at Christmas time, he came back around. But he really has been a rock for me. But there's no expectation of this is anything going to be forever. When I'm with my daughter, I'm with my daughter. We're not talking on the phone all day or texting. And I've made a commitment to myself that I set aside time 2 times a week where I'm not working out, where I'm not at work, where I'm not with my daughter. Right. Where if it's not even him, then maybe I'm going out. I have a lunch date with somebody else. And it's not his business because we don't have a relationship that I can go have lunch with somebody and enjoy company and just be Christina, because I've been wearing too many hats. And some are hats that other people have put on me that I did not necessarily want.
So how do you feel about that? I mean, because I've heard you say that a couple of times, that's a very important point. Someone else, it appears that someone else has kind of molded you in a direction that you didn't want to go in, and now you're reclaiming or you're battling to reclaim who you really are, your true self, who you really are destined to be. But at the same time, there's something over here that you're trying to shed. How do you distinguish between those two things? Because it's kind of like you're here, but you're here. But at the same time, you really want to be here, but all your life you've been there. So now you're, breaking the chain or just breaking the link. So how does that place you in terms of relationship? Because do you feel as though you have to have a relationship? I know you.
No.
Okay.
And I didn't for a long time. And the reason that the gentleman and I stopped, the one I'm having lunch with too, I just stopped talking to both of them because they wanted my time and I wasn't ready to give it. And
so let me ask you, Christina, not to cut you off, but let me ask you, so how does that make you feel though, in terms of, not being in a solid relationship? I'm just going to use the example of relationship to relationship to relationship. And of course, when we start a relationship, we're hoping that that's the one. We're hoping that there's some magic or there's something wonderful about the chemistry of the two people that's coming together.
But what if we don't believe there's the one? Because I don't think I believe in forever.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay.
And I think that it would be nice if there was. I'm open to the idea of it, but I'm also not afraid to let something go. And unfortunately, when you have people that get attached to you and what you can offer, it sucks you dry. It was a little over a year ago. I had Saint's father move out, and I was suffering silently, because I wanted her to have a household and a family. And it's not like he was abusive or anything, but he was a miserable person to be around. And it drained me. And I did not have time to pick myself back up before I had to like put on the business owner hat again and do all these things and juggle all this stuff. And then I was flattered that I had some attention, but I didn't have anything to give anybody else.
Yeah.
And what, thankfully, sometimes we have to break down so that we can kind of like unmuddle everything.
Right. Yeah, so, that takes courage. What you said a moment ago, I don't want to lose that thought, but that takes courage to get out of something that you need to get out of and not stay there because you're trying to save face or you want this little facade of being this one big happy family. It takes a lot of courage to move past that because you have a lot of people that's in relationships now that's really miserable and they're staying in the relationship for the sake of the relationship because they feel like this is the right thing to do. And it's not, and it doesn't feel right, but they're still there. They're still there. And
yeah, I have a girlfriend. She really needs to be on the Zoom right now. I've spoken with you about her, and she's in an abusive relationship, and her husband is an alcoholic, and it's more of the cultural thing. The husband's culture. They do a lot of.
Don't mention any names because this will be on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, and so anyway, there's been physical abuse as of late, and it's like, what more do you need? To your kid is going to see this. Your kid has seen this, and just to say that you tried, and just to say what we don't have to do that. No, and I never have done it.
Right.
And
yeah.
I sometimes we need to be by ourselves and we need to rely upon our own self and, have that quiet time where we're not having everything like swirling around us.
Yeah. And see, Christina, that's that whole societal indirect seed that's been planted throughout the decades that we need to be in a relationship. And you're supposed to suck it up and you're supposed to take the crap. You're supposed to take the abuse and you're not supposed to really talk about it. Even though, I'm an older woman than you are, it still happens in your generation too. It's been passed on from one generation to the next, but it just shows itself differently each generation. Whereas my mother's generation, for example, they just stayed in the relationship and got beat and got abused and no one talked about it. Whereas my generation, we stayed in the relationship, got abused, but we're talking about it. Now, the young lady that you're talking about right now, she's in the relationship and she knows that she's not supposed to be there, but she doesn't know how to come out of that relationship. More than likely she's stuck and she needs someone to help guide her through the process of freeing herself from that relationship. And maybe they're in her other ear being whispered, you have to stick it out for the sake of the family, or you need to be in this relationship for the sake of.
Or you're scared because you don't know. You think the way you live is going to be changed, or the way your child lives is going to be changed.
Yeah. So there's so many layers of why we stay in relationships and why we consider ourselves incomplete, even though we might not say it out loud. In the recesses of our mind, somewhere along the line, some people actually think the thought that I'm not whole without a relationship. I need to be in a relationship. And they go from one relationship to the next trying to find the magic. But the magic is really within themselves. The whole love or the whole relationship is about having a relationship with yourself first. And until you learn how to have a relationship with yourself, then you're not going to have a relationship with anybody else that's going to be wholesome. Because you're reaching out instead of reaching in. So the young lady that you're talking about, like so many others, just like her, they're steady reaching out, trying to validate, I guess, what they're going to feel on the inside, but they're never going to make that match. It's not going to be a match ever.
Yeah. Well, when you experience like trauma or abuse that hasn't been taken care of in an effective way, whether it be
Mhm.
through counseling, medication, meditation.
Right. You're frozen. You're frozen. You're frozen. Okay, so we have a couple more people here. I don't know if you can hear me. Chinu and Brittany, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so she's frozen right now. So if anybody care to comment on the topic, why does society label a person incomplete if they're not in a relationship? Would one of you care to comment on that? Your own thoughts, please.
Chichi, you want to go first?
Go ahead, Brittany. I'm trying to help everyone else get on.
Okay, so for me personally, I have to say that I don't know why society would do such a thing. Like, I feel like that is completely wrong. I feel like you have to be complete as a person before you can even think about, you know, being in a solid relationship with someone else where you can care for them in such a way that you care for yourself, if that makes sense. So I feel like that stigma that is there around society and around people is not appropriate in my eyes.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Brittany. You know, you're right. It's not appropriate, but somewhere along the line, even through media, you know, like the movies that we watch, the newspaper media, in any form of media, Hollywood, you know, is always the chase. It's always the chase, and it's always that subliminal message that if you're not in that relationship, then there's something either wrong with you or you're not complete. The ultimate goal, and more than most times, is directed at women. You know, most times, you know, you have the woman that's always wanting to be in a relationship, whereas the women are portrayed one way and the men are portrayed a different way. And the goal is to land a husband or a partner or you know, significant other. And it's not directly said, okay, you have to be in a relationship, but it's the seeds that's been planted throughout the generations. And when we're laying back in the quiet of our mind, you know, and if we're really honest with ourselves and take a real critical look at ourselves, in terms of the type of relationships we've had throughout our lives, you know, our first love and the next love and the next and the next and the next. We'll have to say to ourselves, you know, how does it make me feel when this relationship is over? Why am I so desperate to have another relationship so quickly afterwards? Why is it that I don't give myself enough time to like cool out and learn from the first experience? Of course, we're young and we don't think about those things on that level, you know, not as a teenager, not even in our 20s, probably. But at the end of the day, you know, by the time we start approaching our 30s and our 40s and we're still not in a relationship, then somewhere in the back of our minds, and this has just been communicated to me from various conversations that I've had, somewhere in the back of my mind, in our minds, is there's this seed that says there must be something the matter with me because I can't keep a man, or I can't keep a relationship, whether it's male or female. I can't stay in a relationship. Instead of evaluating who we are and ourselves in terms of how we want to present ourselves, we begin to reach outside of ourselves. And a lot of addictions, you know, can happen when this takes place. A lot of abuse, self-abuse can take place. And we just, you know, take ourselves through the ringer. And you know the old saying, we can be our worst enemy at times. So how do you guys feel about that? What are your thoughts about that?
So I feel, oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I had 2 points when you were mentioning the societal stuff and the marketing and whatnot. I just had a job I was supposed to go to be a fit model for wedding dresses. Unfortunately, my house flooded, but you saw the pictures that they were, I had to try on the dresses, and it's like, oh my gosh, you know what kind of industry that is, marketing to these women? Like, you have to have the white dress and you have to walk down the aisle looking a certain way. And it's just, if people only knew like the lie that was presented when we're talking about, oh, you need to get married, and the money that's sucked into it. And also to the line of business that I'm in, I get a lot of women, and it's almost like a little bit of a ministry too, because you're hearing people's problems. And do you know how many times I have women come into me, and I've even had some men that say, this is what my partner wants me to look like. And I said, well, what do you want to look like? I don't care what your partner wants you to look like. And these people are changing the way that they look for somebody else, for a relationship. I would never do that. And it's just shocking. But, I see it multiple times a week. Oh, so-and-so wants my hair this way. Can you make it lighter? Well, honey, it doesn't really look good that way. This is what you like. Are you sure? Oh, no, that's what they want. And it upsets me so bad. Like, you don't have to fit somebody else's ideals to be whole. You can be you. You can color your hair the way you want. You can cut your hair the way you want. If you want implants, do it for you. If you want whatever you want to do for yourself, do it for you. If you want to walk down the aisle in a black dress, then walk down the aisle in a black dress if you want. You don't need everybody else telling you what you need to do. That's just like from personal experience.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good talk right there.
I definitely agree with that for sure. I think a lot of that too, though. I think a lot of that comes from what did our ancestors do? I feel like a lot of it stems from like our families pushing us, like, okay, this is what women do, this is what women don't do. I feel like it's kind of almost a stigma in certain families and certain generations, like where women always push the young children, like, oh, don't you want a pretty wedding dress one day? Oh, don't you want a big wedding? Oh, don't you want this? Oh, don't you want that? Or, oh, we got to find you a good man, and I feel like that starts at such a young age sometimes, to where we're just groomed that way, and I honestly feel like generations now, like the young women who are around like the age of 20, 21 at this time, they're like, oh, I see the way that turned out for my older sisters, or, I see the way that turned out for my parents. And they're like, I don't want nothing to do with that, So I feel like that is starting to change a little bit, to where women or young girls now are like, no, I don't think so. That's not the right way. I want to do it my way, kind of thing.
That's good. That's a good point. That's a good point, B. That is so on point, because I think it is changing. Just like I was making reference earlier about my mother's generation, which is the so-called silent generation, my generation, which is the baby boomers, and then the generation X, and then the millennials, and so forth and so on. Every generation, is being torn apart a little bit more. But at the same time, my whole idea of thinking is that, are the seeds still planted? Did it come up at the root yet? Is it coming up at the root? Are these young ladies, like you said, in their 20s, are they feeling a certain way about themselves if they're not in a relationship by the time they get a certain age? Or is that the goal? Is that the ultimate goal? Of course, people want to be in a relationship or have a partner or a significant other if it's healthy. But is that so strong on their mind because of the way media is still portraying not just the dramas that come out on the big tube, but also the comedies, and also the blogs? Everything that we look at touches on that on some level, as it relates to, not being complete unless you're in a relationship. Chi, you have any thoughts about that?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I think this topic is very loaded. And I think there's a lot of factors that go into play when it comes to why we as a society think it's not okay to be single and that you're incomplete if you're single. I'm happy that you brought up the media, Mommy and Christina. You said marketing, all the media is geared towards relationships. I mean, and it does start at a young age. Even if you look at Disney movies, every Disney movie or almost every Disney movie you can think of that's geared towards children focus on some type of romantic relationship, and it's always the man saving the girl or the woman always, and it's like kind of brainwashing children to make it seem like, okay, your life is not complete, you're not saved until you find a man, until you get married, and until he sweeps you off his feet and make you a princess, or until he makes you a queen. I think that's a huge part of it. The media. I think culturally, culture has a huge impact on how people think about that. Christina mentioned her friend that's in a horrible, abusive relationship. And I was just reading a story the other day, and the woman was talking about how she recently got married, and her husband got upset and hit her. And she was completely shocked. That's never happened before. She didn't know what to do. So she went to his parents, her in-laws. The in-laws were upset, but the in-laws were upset because that's something that she should not have spoken about. That was something she should have kept quiet, And it's like, I don't know, the society grooms us and trains us to want to stay in a relationship just for the sake of being in a relationship or being with someone, instead of focusing on us as individuals and growing, being by ourselves. There's a lot of people my age who are afraid of being single, and it blows my mind. I'm like, how? It just completely blows my mind. And there's someone who's married. I can't really relate to being single, or like the mindset of someone who's single and wanting to be in a relationship. But as a person who is married, me getting married didn't take away from who I was as a person. I was an individual. I was myself before I got married, before I met Sam. I was still myself after we started dating, after we got married. He did not try to change me. I did not try to change him. We were both whole. And then we just came together. And I feel like we need to focus more on that, more on us individually being happy by ourselves, instead of focusing on, okay, well, you're not going to be happy unless you're in a relationship, or, you're not complete, you're not whole until you find your other half.
Yeah. That's really good. You made some good points, and this is a loaded conversation, because we can approach it from so many different angles. And I'm so glad you brought up the movies, the Disney movies. The prince taking the princess and living happily ever after, and she's not really anything until she finds her prince, and so forth. These are the subliminal seeds that continues to invade the minds of our children and young adults as well, because we have serious dramas that tell the same type of story, but in a much more mature type of way. I recall hearing someone say in a conversation, and it was about relationships and not being in a relationship. This person actually said it was a generational curse to not be in a relationship, for the women in the family not to be able to keep a man. You know what I mean? And that struck me as, wow, do you really think you're cursed because you're not able to keep a man or stay in a relationship with someone that you said you committed to? Do you really think something's the matter with you? But imagine hearing that, and imagine hearing that you have issues because you're not able to do that. That it's a seed that even though you might dispute it on the outside, but on the inside, you're wearing this low self-worth or this low self-esteem badge in your heart, or mark in your heart, to make you feel as though you're not complete, or there is something the matter with you. And if you know, we are to really question ourselves and really dig deep within ourselves and ask ourselves and be really 100% honest with ourselves about whether we're in a relationship or not. But I'm talking about the people that are not in relationships right now and how they actually feel because they're not in a relationship. We will find a lot of self-discovery. We will learn so much about ourselves. So, yeah.
Do you think not being in a relationship, do you think someone who is not in a relationship but wants it so badly or does everything in their power to always keep a partner, do you think that's something that is not wired in their brain, but do you think it's something that society, do you think they feel like this to make them feel more accepted into society instead of more so than them actually wanting to be in a relationship? Because I mean, if sometimes with some people it feels like they just want to have a man or have a woman or have a partner just for the sake of it, just so they can say, you know, they have a partner just for the sake of saying they have a partner, or for showing it off, or for to make them seem like, you know, in society's eyes, to make them seem worthy, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I follow your line of thought. Anybody want to comment? I don't want to just comment and, you know, somebody else might want to comment. Brittany or Christina, you want to comment on what she said, or do you, you know, I don't want to just, but anyway, Chino, I do follow your line of thought. Yeah, I think people stay in relationships just for the sake of being in a relationship, to say they have a relationship a lot of times, and they're unhappy and they're unhealthy, and they turn to all kind of addictions. You know, addictive behavior is not just with substances, as far as, you know, drugs.
Well, there's sexual addiction. I know people that were addicted to porn. They couldn't be with somebody, and then they get into the pornography.
Right. Yes.
And as far as the Disney stuff is concerned, they're making a concerted effort now to kind of gear more towards where the woman is not so much being saved. Maybe it's like a collaborative effort. I think in the latest Frozen movie, you know, it was more Elsa discovering herself. You've got Mulan, which focuses on a woman warrior. I think that Disney is kind of doing an about face, because that those gender roles are archaic.
Yeah, they are. They really are. But they're still there, and people still, you know, watch them and take it in and feel what they need to feel as far as that is concerned. But that is a good point. That is a good point. Yeah. So here we are. Yeah, here we are. Any more comments? Anything about why? What do you feel like we need to do? Okay, you made the mention about Disney is changing its platform a little bit. What else can we do to turn this thing around as far as society? You know, I know what we can do individually, you know, as far as, you know, what we're talking about right now, how we can empower ourselves through channeling what we need to channel to make ourselves strong and not vulnerable to those type of stigmas or societal labels and so forth. But as a whole, as a community, what can we do collectively? What are you, any suggestions about that? Because this is a big ticket item right here. And we're talking about generations and generations and cultures of conditioning, and in particular, women feeling a certain way about themselves. And as you said earlier about your friend that's in the abusive relationship, you know, women are still continuing to stay in abusive relationships because they feel like they have to be in a relationship, you know, so they'll suck it up. They'll suck the abuse up, you know. So what do you feel like, what's a step forward that we can actually, what can we do?
Own our own power. And you know, the fact that, you know, we can choose when we want to spend time with somebody, how we want that relationship to be. You don't have to be in like a normal, like a so-called relationship what society thinks. You can go out and enjoy yourself, and have a good time, and not have to be tied down, not have to be cooking dinner, not have to be doing all these other things. You can make things how you want them to be, what's going to fit your lifestyle, what's going to be healthy for you.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And having a platform like this, you know, helps. It holds the conversation. It brings out the conversation about the generation upon generations of how, you know, we have been taught that we have to have a relationship, regardless if that relationship is healthy or unhealthy. We need to just stay in it. We need to bite the bullet and stay in it. So, Natifa, how are you, Natifa? Natifa? Can you hear me? You unmute your mic. I hear you talk. I see your mouth moving. Okay.
So I was gonna say, your question was, what can we do as a society as a whole?
Yes.
I feel like we're already on that track. We're already making steps to do that. In the age of the internet and social media, everyone has a platform to tell their story. And more people, because of that, are telling their stories. The world is a much smaller place because of social media. Some people may be against, you know, Instagram and Facebook and blah, blah, blah. But in my eyes, I feel like it's done more good. I feel like it's connected more people, and let more people speak their truth and what they're going through, which makes us, the people on the receiving end, more empathetic and more understanding and more thoughtful. I think it makes us think more about what we want for ourselves. And Christina mentioned the Disney movies and how they're moving away from that archaic way of thinking. I completely agree. They're like Disney and all these other companies are producing films and shows that are more focused on, I'm specifically talking about women, are more focused on women and what they can do for themselves and not being saved by anyone. One of my favorite that came out a few years ago, Moana, completely, I mean, come on, if you've seen it, that is one of my.
We love Moana.
I mean, she owned that entire movie. She was in it she saved the world pretty much by herself. She did it. She claimed it. She made it happen. There was no love interest at all. And I was so, you know, so me and Sam were just talking about that the other day. I was so happy. And we're starting to see things like that more. So we're kind of slowly but surely stepping away from the narrative of, okay, she's a woman, so she needs a man to save her, and she's a woman, so she needs to be with someone, well, you know, but we're kind of stepping away from that. So yeah, to answer your question, I think we're already taking the steps to do that. So yes. Mm-hmm.
That's refreshing. That's refreshing.
You want to hear something funny? My daughter calls me Mommy Moana because I look like Moana, and when she was like a bit younger and we just kind of started her watching the Disney songs. Yeah, I have very, very long, black, kind of pinky hair, wavy, mermaidy. And when Moana would go out into the ocean when she was singing the title song, How Far I'll Go, she would get real serious and her bottom lip would jut out and she would start crying and we couldn't figure it out. Mommy Moana, she thought I was leaving. But I got, you know what? We're all Moanas.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are. That is refreshing. We need to keep on putting Moanas out there then.
You know what? From the mouth of babes, right?
Natifa?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Welcome. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome.
Oh, this one, I finally made it.
Yeah, you So you care to comment on the conversation? We're talking about why does society label not in a relationship, and it's not done like directly, it's indirectly, you know, it's indirect.
I don't know. I think it is, you know, done probably both directly, in some ways, because again, you know, just like I heard a little bit that was mentioned, a lot of it has to deal with, you know, the presentation of fairy tales. What's supposed to be considered the ideal, you know, situation as human beings. And as I got older, I realized that, you know, we've been lied to about a lot of things, you know, not that, but, you know, a ton of things that we've been misinformed about in, you know, the way that life is, period. And so I think that definitely happens to be the way that they, I guess, contextually done that way. I do feel though that in terms of like having a life partner is basically about community too as well. Because again, you know, when you have either say, you know, the partnership between male and female, that is what helps to honestly keep and construct a lot of communities. And I do feel, especially in our communities as of late, there is a lot of, you know, disconnect from that. Not necessarily, you know, done by, you know, when it came down to slavery and liberation and the other things that was put into place to cause women to have to be completely independent on their own. So I don't feel like, you know, definitely when it comes down to us as individuals, as human beings, as women, so we are whole beings. We're whole beings. But I do believe too, at the same time, that our male counterparts are there for us to have, what was the word I had in my head before? Is not so that they can complete the other half, but that we kind of work together to uphold the ideal of community. And I think that's what, in some ways, we have kind of lost sight of, that kind of aspect of it, of the idea of it being something that we utilize to build community, strengthen community in general, just the whole thing. Just, you know, so I think from, you know, that's my perspective pretty much on it, but definitely, you know, in terms of individuals, women are very strong. We we operate independently in many cases. We've done so much, you know, as individuals. In particular, I would have to say Black women.
Having some audio.
Because we have no other choice. The idea that they try to pretend like, you know, that society is saying, well, you're not a whole human being, is absolutely is wrong. I won't, you know, negate the fact that it is important to have an ability to build community in that way as well, you know, through relationships. Relationships are what build community, and strong relationships, regardless of, you know, what they are, is what helps to support community. You know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, everyone's words are so empowering, and I just pray that so many women will hear this and grasp the whole idea that you are complete. You know, you are complete just as you are, and you have the strength and the ability to do whatever it is you need to do and want to do in life. And society does not define who you are. You know, who you are. So, Christina, I see you want to. Is there anybody else that want to add any more comments or say anything else before we conclude?
I had something profound that was relayed to me. I was, you know, the story of my sister and how we just recently reunited and all that great stuff. And
right.
But she lived in a different sort of community, and her and I, when we talk, we like get different stories. She's in a small farm community and a very Christian based. There's not a lot of other faiths. It's people that have been married forever, you stay, that kind of thing. So when some of her in-laws heard that I had had my child's father leave, which it wasn't like a hugely dramatic thing. We weren't married. There was no divorce. It was just, you know what, this doesn't work. I've had enough. You need to go. And that was it. So when I finally saw some of the in-laws face to face, it was relayed to me that they were concerned that I was homeless or didn't have a place to live because I had asked him to leave. Where they said, well, where's she gonna live? Because we had separated. Well, he moved into my house that I owned and I still own, and that I've owned for 12 years.
Mhm.
So how about that?
Right.
That is still alive and well, and that these people were concerned. I mean, and I'm grateful that they thought of me, but I own my own home.
Yeah, yeah.
And a place, even with my ex-husband, that the place we rent was in my name. Like that you're dependent upon a man for your dwelling is, if you are in that type of relationship, then that's great. That's wonderful. But the fact that a woman has to be destitute or in a bad way if she's not with a man, I just wanted to laugh, but I couldn't laugh. I laughed with my sister about it because we both thought it was funny, but I couldn't laugh in front of them and just say, what are you thinking? You think I don't have a plan? You think that what have I done with myself all these years?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. You are a strong woman, and you were able to bounce back, or not even bounce away from it, for that matter, in terms of the relationship. So, and I'm sure you're passing that on to your daughter. That's what it's all about. Each one teaching one, and each one reaching one. You're passing it on to your daughter, and that whole generational cycle of not being who she needs to be, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So, anybody else before we conclude? This has been really great. Anybody have a problem with this on YouTube? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to say too that in some instances, though, with women, when they do separate relationships from men, a lot of times they do end up in poverty and children because of the fact of the structural stuff. It's not so much of the women not having, because we have plenty of women that are completely educated with master's degrees and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times, like the issue comes down to the fact that society still doesn't pay women, fair and equal wages.
Right.
So when it comes down to a separation like that, that can have a big impact for some people, financially, so it is not, especially if women bear the weight of the children too, which often happens too, that can have some issues in which it makes it difficult for, them to be able to make it. So not to negate the strength of women, period, but I think the society does not make it for women who have children to easily adapt to not having, that counterpart in terms of like finances sometimes. And some women will struggle. Some women do make more than men, and that is the case, but that's not for every woman,
Yeah.
And so that can be an issue for some, and it should not make them feel bad because of that. But the reality, that's the reality that we're facing. We live in an unfair and unjust society, and those things can, impact, especially for children, a lot. And I've seen that happen to some women, independent women, strong women, who, due to the fact that, again, they may not have been able to work, they might have had a baby recently or things like that, it can throw them into a certain situation for a time in which they do have to kind of work extra hard to pull themselves out of. I just wanted to make a mention of that.
That's right. Well said. Well said. And Christina, you were talking earlier about your friend who's in an abusive relationship, and she hasn't figured a way out yet. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with her being a woman in the position that she's in terms of whether she's working, whether she has children, whether she's just been beat down with words from her family. We just don't know all the.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, we just don't know all the dynamics.
When, like I said, when you have that unresolved issue from trauma and stuff, it carries in, and then you're not making the wisest decisions in who you involve yourself with, because sometimes the signs aren't there, but sometimes the signs are there. Have they jumped from one relationship to another? Are you giving more? Are you experiencing some of the same things that you experienced when you were going through previous traumas? But if your head's in a space where you want somebody to save you and you want this and that, you can easily get sucked into something that is not.
Yeah, sometimes you don't even know you need to be saved. You know,
Mhm.
you'd be so deep in the muck of it all. You don't even know you need to be saved because you know that consistent abuse is a part of your life. It's just a part of what you've been doing for so long, and you get so trapped till you don't know what to do. You don't know who to reach out to. That's why I really believe these conversations that we have, you know, will hopefully impact women, you know, and men, but in particular women, because I'm a woman, you know, and I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, um, impact in such a way where we will reach out and ask, you know, whether we ask for help professionally or just from someone that we know as a friend. We just need to ask for it. And it's not always easy to ask for help because like we don't even know we need help sometimes, you know?
And people, and you too, you know, like it's always the idea of being strong, like not wanting to be seen as being weak. You know,
Exactly.
I think that's a big part of it because you're told, you know, you're supposed to be a strong woman. You're supposed to be, you know,
Yeah.
what's that Marjorie commercial?
Right.
I can bring home the bacon. I can put it in the
Yeah.
pan. I can, never like all these kind of concepts that make you, again, when you're struggling like that, not
Mhm.
necessarily feel that you want to ask for help. You don't want to appear to be weak.
Exactly.
That's a
Exactly.
big play. And also too, like I wish, like when I look around, like in certain areas, especially for, women and you see struggling, it's not a lot of support services out there for women sometimes. And
Mhm.
that's the other thing, like, you might legitimately need help. You need a way out, like you're saying, and things like that. And the support services are just like terrible.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not enough to help women and families, get themselves into a better situation, especially if it is an abusive situation.
Right.
You've had instances where, women have been killed, as a result of trying to escape, a situation, and then they're not getting enough protection from the police and things like
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
so it definitely isn't easy, to just walk away from a very abusive situation. That's not the easiest thing to do for a
No, it's
lot of
not. It's not. It's not easy at all. It's not easy at all. It's just it happens in stages. And
women.
when a woman is in an abusive relationship, it takes about 6 to 7 times before she really get out of it for sure.
Hmm.
This is something that happens. It happened yesterday and it's happening today, and it's
Hmm.
going to happen tomorrow in the future unless we, do what we can collectively to make a difference. And I think this conversation is making a difference because um, we're empowering each other, and I'm hoping that someone will hear what we're saying, what we're talking about, and have a voice as well, and know that they're not stuck in a situation, that they can come out. I mean, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, so I'll be the first one to say that there is a way out, when you feel like there's no way out, and everybody has a story, a personal story to tell of how they got their crown, in terms of just, their womanhood, that crown of wisdom is what I'm talking about, and we need to be able to share it, let it out there, talk about it, and teach the next one, because a lot of that is missing. I know when I was coming up, I didn't have anyone pulling my coattail to things as far as real life situations and how to fight. I'm not talking about physically fight. I'm talking about just get out there and do the woman dance, the woman fight. In terms of just surviving. So you make a lot of mistakes, you make a lot of errors, but at the same time, you have the hope and you have the faith that you will come through. And one day that you do come through, you just got to pay it back. You got to pay it forward in some type of way to pull someone else up or have a conversation with someone, because you don't know that person that you're having a conversation with. They have a conversation. You just have to start talking. And that's the biggest thing that I know as a woman being in the position that I am in today, is that we need to have more types of conversation with each other. The questions don't even need to be asked because they're not going to always be asked. Like you were saying earlier, we're taught that we're strong. We're taught that, we can't be vulnerable. We got to be the rock. We always got to, do what we need to do. We got to hold it down. No, I got this, everything is okay. But at the same time, a lot of times we're winging it. So That's my conclusion. That's my conclusion. And
And I would say one more thing too, like we have to, raise our boys, our men, better, to think better, to be better.
yeah, you're right, Latifa.
That's very important too,
Yeah, because
So-
how many sons do you have?
4.
4 sons. Yeah, see, that's beautiful. See, you raised 4 sons, and that's beautiful. And they're quite young, great young men.
Yes.
I see them. I see them. And you have brothers. You have brothers. Yeah, you have. I wish there were men, to voice themselves tonight, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that.
You're just gonna
say, yeah, because I would like to know, or I would like, since you're posting this on YouTube, I think it's very important not to just have this conversation amongst women. I think it's an issue for men as well. There's a double standard just with this topic alone. I feel like women are pressured to be in a relationship, but men are pressured to, have fun, go,
Notches in the belt.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like this is an important conversation to have with everyone, not just us, but with everyone, men, women, everybody. But I also want to mention that I know we are women and speaking of our own experiences and how we relate to the world, but I think it's also important to bring into the conversation that men are also in abusive relationships, and men are also victims of the patriarchy, even though, it's designed for them, by them, they're still victims and they are still brainwashed to feel like they have to live a certain way or that their role is a specific thing. They have a certain place in this world. And I feel like because of that, a lot of us, or a lot of the times, we ignore the issues that they face as well, because men are also can be victims of abuse, abusive relationships. I hear about it all the time. I see it, and it's so sad because when it happens, we either ignore it or we praise the woman for being strong, or like, go ahead, girl, like, don't let him talk. It's like, no, violence does not. No, violence on either part from either end is wrong. And I feel like we need to talk about that more as well.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. We have to be kinder to each other, period.
Yes.
And we're often, I don't know, we're getting to a point where we're not being very kind to each other, in this world. And we definitely have to learn to do that more so. And we have to respect each other and value each other for what we bring to the table. On both sides. I think, that's the biggest key, and society has kind of created that monster, for sure, like they've created it, and continue to perpetuate it in all kinds of ways, So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been good, ladies, queens. People, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll have a conversation next month on the 22nd, if everything goes well. That's the.
Oh wait, I have a request.
Yes.
I have a request that maybe on some months it can be on a Saturday, because some people work overnight and have to go to bed at 6 o'clock. And want to be a part of the conversation.
We'll change the day. We'll change it from the 22nd. We'll pick a Saturday.
Okay.
Saturday. Okay, I feel you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And hopefully next time we can all invite one male guest, because I invite guys, but they don't.
Imani tried to get on.
Men don't like to talk like us though. It's hard to get conversation out of. These type of conversations are hard to get out of guys, like.
But we had a couple of conversations, Latifa, where we had some men talking, and it was we had like 3 men talking at one.
Okay.
In one conversation, I'm like,
wow. That's unique.
I know,
That is
right?
unique.
I think it was in January on the topic of forgive. I think that's what it was. But yeah. But anyway, so next time we'll look at a Saturday, Chino. Thanks for the request. I just like the number 22. That's all. I really appreciate everybody's wisdom and your empowering words. And until next time, Nathitha, so wonderful to see you.
It's good to see all of you too.
So
Shino, I know you don't remember me, but I remember your baby.
I know, I remember you.
So cute.
I love you all so much. Thank you all for coming. And I'm going to end this this conversation now with peace and love, and remember to breathe. Okay, take some deep.
Yes, thank
You
you.
too.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It will be on YouTube tomorrow. Mwah, I love you.